This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is having a fantastic day. And I'll tell you what, was very excited to jump in last week and get started talking about our VIP access centers and things that we have going on. Now, today I'm going to be sharing a couple of concepts. Of course, my name is Brian Cowling. And the reason why I'm here is I am an efficiency expert and a business consult expert, taking a look at any business and putting in place some efficiencies that help us do more in less time. Everything that we do is about creating more time. So there's a lot of redundancies that we can end up putting in place that keep us from, hold on one second, I'm sharing my camera here with everybody. Oh, there we go. Got my camera being shared. So we want to talk about those. So last week we started digging into our mindset. When we're taking a look at our business, what are the things that we think about our business and breaking that down? This week we're going to go a little bit further, and I'm going to share a PowerPoint with you. I want to look at the three parts of every business. Now, if you have never read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, and for some people it's confusing, the E-Myth, they think that has to do with the internet, the whole E in front of it and everything, but it's actually about entrepreneurialism. And in the E-Myth by Michael Gerber, he covers the reasons why the average small business is going to fail. What are the things that need to be in place to help you be more successful? There's three parts to every business. So I want to cover those today and dig those apart. Now, before I do that, I want to go ahead and share with you 8 universal business principles that are controlling across all industries. Doesn't matter what you're in, what you're doing, so that you can start to. I'm a big avid reader, and I love reading Andy Stanley. I love listening to Andy Stanley speak. If you are a business owner, you should be picking out several people that you follow so that you can learn from them. So find out what you would like to learn, what you'd like to know, and then go after some of that knowledge and information. So Andy Stanley talks about principles and universal business principles that exist. And one of the things that I love to hear him say is that uh, gravity exists whether I believe in it or not. So think about that. I don't have to believe in gravity for gravity to be holding my feet to the ground. It's holding my feet to the ground right now. I can hold out a glass, drop it. It's going to hit the ground and break because of gravity. Now, interestingly enough, think about universal business principles. If there are universal business principles that exist that you are not aware of, then you may not only be not utilizing them to your benefit, you may be fighting against them. So we want to understand what some of those universal business principles are so we can make sure we're working with them, that we utilize them to our benefit. Once I understand gravity, that's actually how we invented flight. It's how we invented airplanes, because we understood gravity and we're able to go ahead and take other scientific principles like thrust and lift and be able to fly. That's why we can now get from New York to California in 3 to 4 hours instead of 30 years. So used to be by stagecoach. That was a long ride. So let's go ahead and dig into some of those concepts today. Now, I'm going to be watching the chat box here. So if you have some questions, let's see here. Looks like everybody is set to go on the question front. But if you have one, go ahead and shoot in there your questions, and I'll take those as we're going through this. So first off, I am going to go ahead and start by sharing my screen. Hold on, let me pull this back up here. Let's see here. All right, so I'm already sharing my screen. I didn't realize it, but I'm already sharing my screen. So we have got that. I'm going to go ahead and pull up one of the PowerPoints that I've got here. So let me start with this one right here. And that is, first and foremost, let's look at 6 simple steps to success. So these are 6 distinct steps that help you understand how to make more money in your business. Once we do that, I want to look at the universal business principles more closely. So first off, on the pathway to building a business, I have to look at number one, I have to get prospects to raise their hand and identify themselves, and I need them to get them to walk in the door to call me. All right. So let's go ahead and take any business out there. Let's say that you are a very good painter and you're really good at what you do. You have all the paint brushes, you have all the tools, you have the sprayers, you have the expertise. And you have some people whose houses that you paint. You have all the paint. You have everything that you need to be able to do this. But the misnomer is that your business is painting. Painting houses, painting fences, painting anything. That's actually not your business. That's what you do. Let's go ahead and take that correlation across the board for everybody. If you are in real estate, you don't help people buy and sell houses. You're in another business. That's just what you do. If you are a plumber, you fix pipes and you do different things with plumbing, but that's what you do. What your business is your business needs to get prospects to raise their hand and identify themselves. This is a core fundamental way that we think that changes what we do. So if I wake up in the morning and I see my business as I have to go paint 3 houses, then I'm just going to go do what I do in my business. But where's the future business? Future business comes from understanding how do I get people to raise their hand and identify themselves as somebody who needs to have something painted. Okay, so if I run a cell phone store, I can have an entire retail store, the most beautiful one you've ever seen, fully appointed. I can be so proud of it. It's full of cell phones, it's full of accessories, it's full of everything we need. But if I don't make people walk in that door, I won't have a successful store. It's probably the best analogy that I can give you. So the number one distinct step that helps us understand how to make money in a business is, then first and foremost, what I do is not my business. That's just what I do. My business is understanding and finding ways to make people raise their hand and identify themselves as somebody that needs my service and having them call me in some way. So that's number one. 2, it's easier if I get these prospects to sort themselves. Okay, so I sort them into people who are ready to do something now versus people who are looking to have something done later. So if I were to go out and talk to 10 people about having a house painted, I might find one of those that are ready to have it painted now and 9 who are in the future. So I'm looking for now business and I'm looking for future business at the same time, but I want to sort them. Number 3, this is the biggest component that a lot of people miss out on for a business, and that is convincing prospects to meet with us. Let me explain why this is important. Once people meet with somebody, they feel some sort of obligation to the people that they meet with, and they feel like they know them. We're going to be getting into some DISC profile training where we profile people based on personality type, and we understand that a large percentage of the population, almost 80%, wants to do business with somebody who they feel like that they know. So meeting face-to-face with people is a very important part of the process. So the sooner you can get face-to-face with your prospect versus just, well, I'll send you some information. Well, I'll send you an email. So having a process in place whereby you can get face-to-face with your prospects is very important. 4, once we meet with somebody, we want to convert those prospects, the ones we want to work with, we want to convert them into what we would call a client. So remember, we have 2 different kinds here. Somebody who may want to do business with us now and somebody who is in the future. But this is a very important outline to start thinking about, because if you're just going into your business doing what it is that you do, you're probably missing out on the ideas that you need for creating a sustainable business and something that can grow that doesn't fully depend on you. So we want to convert the prospects that we want to work with into long-term clients. 5, once we have that particular person, we want to give them wow service. Whether they've done business with us yet, or they're about to, or they've done business and it's after the fact, I need to have every single thing that I've done put into a system that makes sure that I can deliver wow service. So how do we do that? Some people have checklists that they work from. If you don't have at least a checklist that you're working from, you're probably always struggling with making sure that we get back with everybody. Now, the number one complaint of people about small businesses is, well, I keep calling them and they never call back. And we know why that is. It's because many small business owners are overworked and really underpaid, have too much business coming in, and we really can't get back to everybody. So let's just put a pin in this one because we're going to be talking more about this later. Delivering wow service is very doable if you know how to create the right systems to be able to communicate with people on a consistent basis. So we'll talk about that later. Let's just put that to the side. And number 6, if every single person that you did business with last year, let's take that back. Let's just say that half of the people that you did business with last year, if half of those people gave you a referral, how would your business do this year? Think about that. So all of the business that you've created is fantastic, and maybe you're doing a lot of good referral business, but that is the goal. So when we take a look at these 6 simple steps, it really starts to change the idea of, well, I'm just painting houses. No, there's something deeper when we look to build a business that doesn't depend on us, and that's where we're headed with this. Let me pop out of this really quickly here. I want to see if we make sure we've got any questions coming in. All right, nope, no questions coming in. So we will jump back over here. Let's jump back in. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the 8 universal business principles. So universal business principle number 1. Universal business principle number 1 is prospects do not want to be sold. They absolutely do not want to hear what you're saying unless you tell them what they want to know. So think about, have you ever recorded yourself giving a presentation? Have you ever asked somebody else to review you to see how you communicate with clients? So some of you, you look at it, you say, Brian, I am fantastic here. 90% of the time I meet with somebody, they like me. If you're not that way, if you look at yourself consistently meeting with consumers and they don't say yes to you or your product, you have a problem with your presentation. So I'll go ahead and tell you, 9 out of 10 people that a great salesperson meets with will say yes to them or their product. Okay, because they're saying yes to a feeling. They really just want to know, in most cases, is this my best option? Is this person that I'm choosing the best option out of all the options? So some people have the misnomer of thinking that people just want the cheapest product out there. They're just about price. And there are some people that exist that it's only about price to them. But most people do not want the cheapest thing on the shelf. So go ahead and take your pen out right now. I want you to write this down. Cost is only a factor in the absence of value. Okay? Cost is only a factor in the absence of value. If you're able to show somebody value, you don't have to sell them anything. You just show them the value that you bring to the table. So every good presentation has 3 components. So when you're looking to present something, your product, your service, yourself to the consumer, it needs 3 things. First, you have to identify a problem that exists. Think about an infomercial. We all say, oh, I don't watch infomercials, but I'm going to tell you they're highly successful because they identify a problem and they demonstrate that problem to people. Secondly, what's the solution? Somebody came along and created or invented a solution to that problem, and you look at it and go, wow, I had that problem, and there's somebody who solved it. The third component is the benefit. So you have problem, then solution, and then benefit. The benefit is how does this solution make my life better, faster, stronger? Doesn't matter. Whatever adjective you want to put in there, how does this product do that? But remembering that people do not want to be sold is a very important part of this. Universal business principle number 2. The only vote that counts here is the customers. Okay, so if you're not sure if something will work or not, you've got to test it on the customer. So sometimes we take our knowledge and information about our product, about our service, about our industry, and we start putting together something that we think everybody wants. It's pretty fascinating when I go in and I take a look at a business and start talking to people. They have a specific way that they see their product, but the customer doesn't necessarily see it that way. They have incredible amounts of knowledge about it, and they say things like, oh, it's really easy to understand. Does the customer think so? We don't know yet. Sometimes we have to find out. So if you're not sure whether something works or not, test it. Let the customer tell you. Third, prospects need a compelling reason to do business with you. So if I were to ask you, why should I choose you over and above any other business or any other option or just doing it myself? There needs to be a compelling reason. It can't just be, so here's the age old, well, I'm a really hard worker and I will guarantee your satisfaction. Okay, well, that's a little bit broad. What is a specific compelling reason to do business with you? And where we start to create that is that's our USP. That's our unique selling proposition. And we're going to spend an entire week on the development of these universal business principles and turning those into unique selling propositions, something that you can take about your business and give it directly to somebody else. So just as some homework for that, when we need a compelling reason why they should do business with us, where should we start? How do we create that? We're going to start with, could you name your consumers' three biggest fears? So if I were a painter and I were to think about my consumers' three biggest fears, number one might be somebody who would come in here and do a really, really bad job. Probably fear number one. Fear number two, somebody who comes in who I pay and then they disappear. Okay, we all know that there's a lot of companies and contractors out there who don't finish the job properly and might even leave somebody hanging. That's just two fears. Okay, fear number three, doing it myself and it's a lot of work. So there's a lot of things that we can start to think about. So take your business and your industry and start to think about what are the fears that exist, and can I give them a compelling reason to do business with me that, remember, problem, solution, benefit. If they have a fear, that's probably a problem that they have. What's my solution to that problem, to that fear? And then how does it benefit them? That's where we start creating these compelling reasons that people should choose me over and above everybody else. Number four, I love this one because so many times in my life, I have been all over the place. And here's where number four comes in. If you try to be all things to all people, you will dilute your effectiveness. So think about this. At one point in my life, I was running a company. I was sitting on two different boards. I was sitting on a nonprofit board for two different boards. I was the president of my homeowners association. I was working in a church with the youth, volunteering time. I could name all of these things that I was trying to do, and my effectiveness in each area was diluted because I was trying to be all things to all people. So this is a pretty fascinating principle, because when we take a look at ourselves, what do we give up? What are the things that we should do to focus on? Take a look at your family, trying to be a good father, trying to be a good husband. These are all jobs, trying to be a good wife. It doesn't matter what it is. Don't try to be all things to all people. You will dilute your effectiveness. Next one is number five. You have to make it easy and fun for prospects to do business with you. So think about your message. We sometimes deliver our message and we think it's very easy to understand. But if it's hard to understand in any way, if prospects have to go out of their way to try to understand it, they won't stay around to hear more. So this is very important, and it kind of comes in with the previous one, or the earlier one, where we talked about the customer telling us if that's going to work. Customer needs to tell us if the message is hard to understand. We may need a focus group of people to sit down other than myself so that I can bounce this off of people. Don't ever assume that you have all the answers or know all of the answers. Be open to letting other people tell you more. Next one let's talk about here is the universal business principle number 6. So that is the only way to transform your business. The only way to transform your job into a business is to work on your business rather than in it. This is a very important part. You got to think about that the average business owner spends a lot of hours every week all working in the business just to keep it going. So you never get the time to stop to work on it. So what does it look like to work on your business? Working on my business would be setting aside every Friday from 8 to noon to be able to consider new opportunities for business. So where can consumers see my product or service, and can I run an ad there? What is the ad going to be? I'll need time to create that. So I'm setting aside specific time where I'm going to be able to do that. But this is very important. It starts with small and it goes to bigger. So I like to get to the point where 20% of my time is spent working on my business rather than in it. Once we do that, I can start to leverage myself even more. Maybe I'm bringing in my first admin, my first assistant. Then I'm going into, maybe I'm able to hire out my marketing department. Then I'm developing people around me. I'm finding other people to create technicians to see what they can do. So all of that isn't done while I'm working on my business, although some of it can be. I can duplicate myself while I'm in my business. So if I'm mentoring or training somebody else on the job, then I'm working on my business and in it at the same time. One of the only ways to be able to grow is going to be to duplicate yourself through other people. So that's where number 7 comes in. The only way to avoid trading your time for money is to understand and use the concept of leverage. Okay? Leverage is the idea that if it's always just me, it will always be just me. If you are a control freak, as they would call it, and you're the type of person that cannot let anybody else do anything, then it will always just be you doing your business. Can I create a system or a process whereby I can duplicate myself and other people? Here's exactly how I do it. Here's why I do it this way. And here's the process for doing it in the future moving forward without me. I have entire folders online of video after video showing people how to do specific processes. From the mundane, just sending specific emails, how I want them sent. Because if I'm going to have an executive admin, I want them doing it exactly how I would do it. So I go ahead and I just hit record on my screen and I record myself doing something and say, this is how I want it done. Now I don't have to follow up with somebody. They either follow the process that I laid out, or maybe we're not a good fit. I can carry that through to when I'm in the field. I go out into the field and I have somebody follow me and say, hey, watch how I do this. This is how I want you to do it next time. And we're going to continue to create checklists and systems around everything that I do so that I can get out of the process of trading my time for money. So every time I go out to a job site, if I'm not thinking about how to leverage myself, I'm going to always be on that job site doing the same thing over and over, and I won't have a business. I'll just have a job. Leads us to number 8. Without a system, you will reinvent the wheel every time. So I'm talking about ways to systematize your business instead of just doing it the same way over and over. So you've probably thought about yourself of jumping into your business and trying to change things and trying to do things. Now, the systems that we're going to share with you over this 13-part series are pretty exciting. I know Jason's really excited about it, taking all of our partners in the VIP Access Home Centers and sharing these processes to make you a better entrepreneur and a better businessman. So that kind of leads us to the next step here, and that is entrepreneurialism. Let's take a look over here. I don't see any chat coming in, so I think we're good to go ahead and jump over, and I'm going to share with you. I call this particular session Building Your Career into a Business. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in, and I'm going to go ahead, probably going to go about another 30 minutes, so we'll probably try to finish right about the top of the hour, so hang with me here on an incredibly intriguing topic to understand why most small businesses fail, to understand what most small businesses don't get connected to that they need to get connected to in order to be successful. So let's start with this. Now, there's a simple test that's given to people who are entering a mental facility to determine their level of sanity. So the first thing that happens here is they are shown a tub full of water and they're asked to empty it. Now, here's where it gets interesting. They're given a bucket, they're given a coffee cup, and they're given a teaspoon. So they're asked to choose which one of these items will you use to empty the water out of the bathtub. Now, this is a riddle, of course, and the point of this riddle is this. In most cases, we are already given the choices for the opportunities that are in front of us and for the problems that are in front of us. So we see a problem that exists and we look at 2 or 3 ways that we can fix that problem, and that's just the way that it is. But you've heard the phrase thinking outside the box. And I know it's kind of cliche, but the point of that riddle is actually, it really is that. Well, somebody who is fully sane and thinks outside of the ideas that are given to them would say, well, why don't you just pull the plug on the bathtub? Okay, so many of us business owners are business owners because we feel that we are outside of the box thinkers. Once we know that, we have to make sure that we never fall back into the process of only choosing the options that are given to us. Okay, so one of my least favorite phrases in the office that people are not allowed to utter under penalty of death, practically, and that is, well, it's always been done that way. Okay, we don't use that phrase. Well, it's always been done that way. I really don't care that it's always been done that way. In fact, if it's always been done that way, I'd almost prefer we find a more efficient way to do it, because there's a lot more technology today than there was 5 years ago. Okay, so 5 years ago, we may have been doing it this way. We have more processing power now. We have more software. There's a lot more software programs that have been invented that might make it more efficient. So I love questioning things, and that's one of the biggest things that I can do in any business is walk in and look at a process for how people are doing it and instantly be able to save hundreds and hundreds of hours of man hours, woman hours of time sitting right in front of us, people working. It's gone because we can instantly look at a way to do that. Now, some people look at that with a scarcity mentality. Some people look at that and say, well, if all those hours are gone, I won't have a job. But that's a scarcity mentality. Scarcity mentality looks at life as a pizza. And when you're looking at life as a pizza, there's only so many pieces. And you look at that as, well, I need to make sure I get my piece or two of pizza, and it's a limited resource. But an abundance mentality looks at life as a candle. And there's always more light to be had. I can give out and light your candle. I can light your candle, and we keep on lighting candles. The more candles we light, before we know it, we have a movement created. It's an abundance of everything that's out there. There is no scarcity. So when we take a look at what if we do make a specific process go away because we were able to simplify it and use software, well, that frees up more people to talk with our consumers, right? That frees up more people to talk with our clients and help them with customer service. That frees us up to do what we should be doing anyway, and that is help our clients do whatever it is that they need to do. So let's look at life and all of the issues and problems that we have through an attitude of abundance and not scarcity. Now, we asked this question last week. So if you didn't see last week, you definitely want to go into the archives there, look at the video. We want to get to the point where we believe we have the ability to be a champion in our business, where we champion a cause, champion a service, champion a product. We believe that we have everything we need inside of us to succeed. And if we still don't believe that, let me go ahead and show you a couple of images here. I saw these images online and I thought this was fascinating. So if you woke up in the morning and somebody handed you all of these crates of eggs and they said, here's a motorcycle, I want you to go deliver all these eggs. Well, a lot of people would look at that and say, have you lost your mind? Are you crazy? That's not possible. And that's where the possible goes away. The possible goes away when we say that's impossible. One of my favorite lines, and we talked about this before, I think last week, is from a movie. The movie is called Interstellar, where the spaceship has broken away from its only way to get back to Earth, and it's plummeting into the atmosphere. And they said we have to go retrieve it. And they said it's not possible for the human body to exert that many G forces and survive. He says it's not possible, but it's necessary. What in your business is necessary for you to do, but you believe it's impossible? Take this analogy, this picture that we're looking at here. You could take a picture like this and print it and put it on your desk just to remind you, what is that thing that you're looking at that you say is impossible? Let's keep going. This guy's delivering a mirror. Got somebody here delivering blocks of ice. I'll tell you what, this takes a lot of balance right here. We've got somebody delivering some metal rails. And this is probably my favorite. This is ingenious. If I were looking at this, I don't think that this would be the first solution that I'd think of. I think I would be trying to fashion a pole or something to the motorcycle where I could put all of those on there, and I would spend a lot of time trying to put that together. I don't think that that would have been my first thought. And I look at this and go, that is ingenious. He used himself as the transportation device. This goes back to our beginning scenario with the bathtub. What options do you think he was given, first off, to deliver all of those hula hoops? That probably wasn't on the list. And he came up with this, or somebody came up with this at some point to be able to accomplish the task in front of us. So that really comes down to, when there's a will, there's a way. Well, we've heard that, and that's a little bit cliche. But better than that is, don't let excuses rule your life. So I would challenge everybody to find out what your excuses are, to think about the excuses that you make about your business. Well, we can't do that because, fill in the blank. Let's get those on a list. I want to put those up on the wall, and I want to put a big circle around it like the Ghostbusters and put the line through it. I want to come up with a way to overcome every challenge that we have. So remember what we said last week, and the idea was can't, never, could, because it never had a chance. And that is, once I believe something isn't possible, I will never be able to tackle that. So here's where we're going. Let's start thinking about our business in terms of rating. So if I were to rate my business, I would start with number 1, surviving, number 2, thriving, number 3, flourishing. So a lot of business are just in that first category. Rate your business. Think about it. I'm fighting every day to make a living. I'm just surviving. Number 2, I'm thriving. I'm doing well, but I would really like to do better. And then you're flourishing. My business is pumping, and I'm looking for more and more opportunities. It is in the right place. So be honest with yourself and go ahead and rate your business. Where is your business right now, and where do you want to go? So we all, of course, would love to be in that place where we're flourishing, where we are doing things that we never dreamed possible, and our business is just pumping. But there seems to be a glass ceiling, something that we can't break through. So what do the people that are at the top having a business that's flourishing, what do they do that I don't? And I'm going to go ahead and give you a couple of things here that I know. I've actually interviewed hundreds and hundreds of business owners, people that are highly successful. And what I find across the board is they start with standard business principles. So we shared some of those up front. Make sure you know and understand those. For me, I'm a visual person. If I was trying to ingrain those into my life and in my business, I would print them. I would put them on the wall next to my desk, and I would look at them. Maybe I'd read them once a day or once a week. Start understanding how those principles control things, and I'm looking to make my mind start to create something new. Number 2 is basic life principles. So there's certain ways that life works. If don't feel that I'm fully connected to the flow of life, you ever feel like you're swimming upstream? I want to go on a journey. So there was a point in my business where I went on a journey of self-discovery. I started reading more spiritual books and looking for something to connect to our creation, because there's basic life principles that exist for how people interact with each other and how we interact with our world. So go on a journey to connect with those so that you start working with the flow of the universe instead of against it. Number 3 is organization. So we talked a little bit about systems to be able to run things, and organization is a key part of that. If you don't have a checklist in place for every single thing that happens in your office, in the field, in the car, then they probably don't feel very organized. So that's the place to start, is start to create your checklists. And then lastly is discipline. So where does that fit in? Some people have a lot to do in their business, but I think the best thing to say is long list syndrome. How many of you get a really long list of the things that you want to get done? There's 30, 40 things on the list. And maybe you go to a conference to get motivated for business and you write a lot of things down. But then 6 months later, it's all still on that piece of paper. Your long list is still a long list. Okay. My long list, I try to break it down to short things. I try to pick one thing that I'm going to accomplish today or two. Maybe I pick one major thing I'm going to accomplish this week. But then when it comes time and somebody calls me and says, hey, Brian, let's take off tomorrow, go golfing. I may look at that and I see my list and I go, you know what? Let's do that next week. I have something on my list that needs to be done and I have the discipline to be able to go do it. Let's go and do this. If we're going to talk about a plan of action, let's look at our motivation for choosing our career. I like doing this exercise to start to get some insight into ourselves. So if you start looking at yourself, why did you choose this career? And most people choosing a career choose it because they either needed or wanted one of the following. Maybe you worked a job somewhere and you had a 9-to-5er, as you would call it, and you wanted more independence, you wanted more flexibility, more family time, more money. Maybe you looked out and you saw somebody else running a business and say, hey, that looks pretty easy. Maybe you thought that you were going to work fewer hours or you could set your own hours. But probably what you found when you got into a small business is it's more hours. I don't have freedom. I don't have independence. I really don't get more family time and I don't have flexibility. All of those things come into play once I create an actual business. Okay, so we had an idea or a thought for what we wanted to do, but we didn't get to the place we wanted to get because we're still at the beginning stages of our business trying to build it. So here's an important component to this. Many of us did fire our boss. We were in some industry and we were doing it and came out and started our own business. But once you fire your boss, you need a new one. Very important to take a look at this. Your new boss is you. If you got to the end of this week and it's Friday and you had to give yourself an evaluation for your performance over the week, let's not just say performance in the field. Because many of us, maybe we're a really good technician and we've been working ourselves to death out there in the field. But in the office, things are a wreck. Okay? I don't have any organization there. I can't get back with half of the people that are calling me. Maybe I need to give an evaluation here. Would I have to fire myself in certain areas of my business? Someone has to take the role of the boss. If you don't have a boss, you will not flourish as a business. Somebody has to take the reins of leadership and be able to go ahead and run with this. So that's the number one component that is missing out of a business owner's day, is they feel like they started their own business. Well, I'm the boss. I can say whatever I want and do whatever I want. So there's nobody in place that's driving the car, the bus, the truck, whatever you want to call it. So let's look at the average top producer day. I told you that I've met with hundreds and hundreds of successful business owners. The average person who is a top producer in any business gets up early and eats a healthy breakfast. They are ready to go. They maintain fitness. Go ahead and go to the gym, get a good workout in. Go ahead and fitness, running. Some people will do that at the end of the day, depending on where your level of alertness is. 9 a.m., working, return emails, and organized day. So I'm going to go ahead and be very efficient now for what I do. 10 to 12, it's on the calendar. Prospecting for new clients. 12 to 1, lunch appointment, I'm networking. 1 to 3, I'm meeting to sign up new clients. 3 to 5, showing houses and writing contracts. This came directly from a real estate agent. 5 to 6, return and follow-up calls. 6 to 10, family time. Look, it's on the calendar. 10 p.m., self-growth time. Okay? So when I was in the field as a real estate agent, I wrote this for myself. Okay? My kids knew that I would not be home on Tuesdays and Thursday nights. On Tuesdays and Thursday nights, my assistant, my ISA, inside sales department, set up appointments for me to go meet with clients. Those were the nights that I was out. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I was home with the kids, spending family time. Saturdays, I went out. I was gone all day Saturday for the most part, unless there was a game, and I would schedule it in, game for one of the kids. And then on Sunday, I was home. Didn't book any appointments. So that was how I was able to build a business that was highly successful in real estate. So on a top producer's day, they choose half a day each week to work on the business instead of just in it. So we mentioned that a little bit earlier about choosing Friday from 8 a.m. to noon. So very important to start thinking about the things that you could use to mature your business and leverage yourself out with different tools. You can't do that if you don't stop and have the time. Maybe that time for you is on the weekend. Maybe that time is on a Sunday afternoon. It doesn't matter when it is, but you have to get to the point where you build in that time. And the main reason most people fail in their career is that they think that they can act at the start of their career as a successful, seasoned person acts currently. So once you've built your business, we get to that place where we can go ahead and branch out, and we start to go on more vacations. We get more freedom. I was able to build my real estate business to the point that I only had to be there about half a year, if that. And it was highly successful at helping people and at making money. So here's where the everything started when we put this all this together, and that was in the organization. So I mentioned the E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And let's go ahead and talk about the 3 parts to every business that have to be in there. They are the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician. Now, before I jump into these, let me go ahead and jump out. I've been talking for a good bit here. I want to go ahead and see if I've got any questions that have come in. Go to the chat box. Let's see here. Nope, I don't see where anything else has come in. So good. If you do have a question, make sure you pop that on in over here. All right, back over here. So the entrepreneur is the person that figures out how to bring in new business and keep it growing. The manager handles all of the day-to-day activities and writes the plans for how the day's activities are going to get done in an organized and efficient manner. And the technician, that's the skilled individual who actually carries out the daily activities laid out by the manager. So let's think about this. The average person that starts a small business is a very skilled technician. Let's go ahead and say we have somebody who is an HVAC contractor, heating and air, very good at what they do. One day they look at it and say, I'm so good at this. People really like me. I'm going to go start my own business. So they have some money saved up. They buy a truck, get it outfitted, and it has their name on the side. They're ready to go. But what happens? Well, nothing. They tell all their friends and family are in the business, so they're doing a job here, a job there, because they're referring them out, but they're just getting started, so they're probably charging really low prices and not making much money, just barely squeaking by. So what needs to happen is they need to understand that there needs to be an entrepreneur. So let's go ahead and say that this technician decides they're going to go take a few classes on marketing. They learn how to create an ad for their business. They put it online somewhere or in a newspaper, and all of a sudden the phone starts ringing. Well, fantastic. The technician picks up the phone, starts calling them, sets up a few appointments, goes out. Hey, now I'm very busy as a technician and I've done a good job as an entrepreneur. But what happens next? Well, the phone keeps ringing and I don't have a manager to handle all of the volume that I created with my entrepreneurialism. So now I don't get back with all of the people, or I take on too many jobs because I can't get to them all. And now I get a couple of bad reviews. And I'm back to square one. All right, we all know that bad reviews are the banality of a business's existence and can kill a business in a heartbeat. So the manager is a very important component. Now let's kind of take the other hand. If I'm a good technician and very efficient manager, but I never bring in new business, then I have the same issue. So understanding that there are 3 components is the first step. Now I start to apply those to me. So let's go ahead and jump through this. I've kind of gotten ahead. So this is where we take 3 sheets of paper. We go ahead and title each one with each of the 3 parts and write down a job description. So if you were to think about the job description for the entrepreneur in your business, what would be on it? Every aspect that I can think about will go on that job description. And then I start to think about the manager. What is the manager's job? If I were to look to hire myself or anybody else for that position, what would I need to put on that? Because the end goal is this. The end goal is to, at one point, bring somebody else on to be able to hand that over to them, and they write their name on there, and they're now responsible for that part of the job description. Okay? Very important. The technician, what do they do? How do they do it? When do they do it? Why do they do it? A big component of the technician, the manager, the entrepreneur is the why. If I'm trying to teach somebody else something, the one of the downsides of human behavior when you're training is people want to take and they see something and say, oh, I'll bet it would be faster this way. But if they don't know why you were doing it that way, and hey, I always love when somebody comes up with something faster, but they need to understand why I may have had 4 or 5 extra steps in there. It's because 3 years ago, I ran into this issue 5 or 6 times and I realized I had to build a process. So they may not know that. So understanding why you do things is a big part of each job description. So remember, the entrepreneur, how will I get new business? The manager, how am I going to organize all of the daily activities into a plan of action? Who's going to do them and how's it going to get done and when's it going to get done? And then the technician. Technician does everything that the manager tells me to do exactly as my manager tells me to do it. So if my manager, even if it's me, assigned me to work until 10 p.m. and then I had to do all of these things the next day, that's what I need to do because the manager assigned it. So maybe it helps sometimes to put on different hats. So you may have a technician hat that you wear, have a manager hat that when you're sitting at the desk, right now, I am the manager. I'm planning things out for how they're going to get done. And then you have your entrepreneur hat. Here's where we're going to build a business and here's how. Now, once we have all of these job descriptions written, our name is the one who's at the bottom. And we let the manager put in place the plan. We continue to do these jobs until we're to the point we talked about the universal business principle of leverage at number 7. This is where we start looking for talent. And one of the other things we discussed about getting into the flow of the universe. These business principles, when you do this, you're going to be shocked to see how often that things just start to come right in front of you. The right person at the right time. Having the right people on the bus is very important to a growing business. When you have negativity on the bus, some of you right now may have somebody in your office who's highly negative. And when you have that, sometimes, I call negativity cancer. That negativity can eat away at a business. You hire somebody new, the person who's negative poisons them. So if you're having trouble with those kind of things, those need to be addressed. Fantastic book about that is Henry Cloud's book. It's called Necessary Endings. So if you are in a position where you have to let somebody go but don't know how, there's a lot of good books out there on that. So let me go ahead and finish up with this. I said I'd finish right near the top of the hour, and we're getting very close to that right now. The manager, once he lays out our day, the way the entrepreneur designed it, the technician follows everything exactly how we want them to do it. So let me pop over here. I think we've shared some really good concepts today. Let's see, where's my chat box? All right, so I don't see any chat coming in on this, so that probably means that we've explained pretty well some of the concepts that we wanted to share today that are the foundation for what we're going to go into. So as we go into week 3, we're going to start to break apart our USPs. We're going to start to break apart a unique selling proposition and what that looks like for your business. So I think the homework this week, if we're talking about homework, is to go ahead and start writing down what are the 3 biggest fears. Maybe you can come up with 5. Maybe you can come up with 10. What are the fears that your consumers think and feel about your industry that we can start to look at to try to create unique selling propositions, something that you offer? Remember, why should I choose you over and above any other option, any other business, including just doing it myself? So Jason wasn't able to, I think he had a problem with his connection today and wasn't able to get on. So we'll have him back with us next week, and I'll be back here. Look forward to talking with everybody at that point. Enjoyed sharing this with you today, and we'll go ahead and sign off. Everybody have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you back here next time. Bye now.